Hello everyone, I am Juanica, also known as Miss Astrology, and I'm making this video today because Saturn has retrograded. Well, Saturn's been retrograding, but Saturn has officially gone back into the sign of Capricorn. And this is a real opportunity for us to revisit some things. And so I felt like a video was going to be important. So before I get started, I do want to let everyone know that I do have a newsletter and I have a website, and I will be integrating more people to the website. It's just easier for me to upload longer videos and not have to chop them up. I'm also going to offer some live webinars where we can do new moon, full moon discussions and get more people on and stuff like that. So visit my website. The link is in the bio, 1111astrology.com. Sign up for the newsletter. I give a lot of good information before I do the videos, and book a reading. Readings are so important. Check out my reviews. I have excellent reviews. And even specifically, if you were born and really just went through your Saturn return, born between February of 88 and February of 1991, and you just went through your Saturn return, you're going to get the next 5 or 6 months to really make sure that you learned the lessons that Saturn was teaching. And so, it'd be a really good idea to get a reading to get some insight into what areas of life. And oftentimes there's more than one area of life when you consider all the planets. However, to get that professional insight is so worth it, you guys. My reviews are really good. God is with me. I'm telling you, he speaks through these readings, and you should definitely book one. Also, if you're born between February 1991 and May of 1993, you are preparing for your Saturn return. When Saturn goes back into Aquarius at the end of this year, December 17th to be exact, Saturn will go back into Aquarius. This is your time to learn some lessons and to really mature and to grow. And Saturn is really here, again, in another sign that he traditionally rules, bringing some boundaries, bringing some limits. And it's really good insight to kind of know what to expect. So book a reading, sign up for the newsletter, check out my website. If you have any questions, send me a DM, all of that good stuff. Okay, so IGTV is limited, so let me hurry up here. Okay, Saturn is retrograding. Saturn has officially made his way back into the sign of Capricorn, and will be in Capricorn, will be retrograding until September 29th of 2020. And will be in the sign of Capricorn until December 17th, 2020. So first thing we want to think about is what kind of energy does Saturn bring when it comes to Capricorn? Well, Saturn is keywords. I like to use keywords. This is how I teach you guys astrology. Limits, boundaries, structures, traditions, suppression, self-control, hard work, cold, hard, time, old. Saturn is a malefic planet. So this means that everywhere that Jupiter says yes, Saturn says no. Saturn will reward you, but only until after you put in the hard work, after you've shown the discipline, after you've created the boundaries and the limits, and really over time. I say it all the time that as far as I'm concerned, Saturn is the old man of the zodiac, your old grandfather who worked in a traditional business and a traditional job in a traditional building for 40 years and then got a traditional retirement. Well, probably a nice retirement, right? At the end of that 40 years, our grandparents, had money. They had a reward at the end. That is Saturn's energy. And Saturn is home in the sign of Capricorn. And so then you say, okay, well, if Saturn is in Capricorn, what does that mean? That means that Saturn is right at home with boundaries and limits. So now we say, okay, Saturn, now we understand Saturn's energy. Saturn is retrograding. So what does that mean? A retrograde is a very reflective time. It's a time that we rethink, reorganize, reflect, restructure, redo. This may even be a time for us to have to rework some things because it's Capricorn, which is an earth sign that wants to work and wants to redo and restructure. Saturn is structure, right? That's one of the key words. And because Saturn is at home, it's definitely about restructuring. This is why I say, as far as the United States goes, this is going to be about restructuring our jobs, restructuring our, because Capricorn and this whole Saturn transit is happening in the United States' second house. And so we'll see, restructuring of finances, restructuring of what we consider to be secure and valuable, and restructuring of food, all kind of touristy things. So because that's where Capricorn is in the United States chart. So what I think is important for us to know and to consider when over this next 5 or 6 months or so, when Saturn is retrograding, we need to know what house Saturn is retrograding in so that we can know what lesson Saturn is really wanting us to learn so that he can bless us as he moves back forward. If we have not learned this lesson, if we have not created or released this tradition, this limit, this boundary, it's really more about releasing these boundaries, releasing these limits. And the reason that I say that is because Pluto, the planet of transformation and destruction, is involved, as well as Jupiter, the planet of integrity and philosophy and higher faith and higher religion. So this is a real transformation of releasing the boundaries. In this instance, Saturn kind of loses. Like, Saturn is going to be moving on from Capricorn before Pluto and Jupiter do. So Saturn doesn't get to maintain the boundaries and the limits like it wants to. It's moving on. And Pluto is here to change this. And so we're all getting one more chance to revisit where it is we need to get rid of the traditions, the structures, the limits, the boundaries, the old way of doing things, the old. We just need to get rid of the old. So for this reading, I'm going to talk about the houses because I believe that's where it's going to be most important. You need to know in your chart what house Capricorn is in. And the way to know the houses is you really need to know what time you were born, because this is where, when your picture is taken, at the moment of your birth, the moment of your inhale, of you taking your own life source or life force. This is when your chart begins, and this is how you get the houses. Now, a lot of questions that I get is, Juanika, I don't understand the houses. What are the houses? And as deep as astrology is, it's actually pretty simple. So the planets are the energies, and the signs are the characteristics. So you say, okay, this planet brings this energy. How's that energy going to play out? It's going to play out on this, based on a sign. And then you say, okay, so Saturn is in Capricorn. This energy is going to be about structures, about limits, about traditions, about discipline. Okay, where in my life do I need to have structure, discipline? Where am I examining that? Where am I rethinking, refocusing that? Because it's a retrograde. That's what the houses tell us. The houses tell us the where that this is taking place. That's all the houses are. It's taking that picture of the sky at the time of your birth and bringing it down to your earth. Because I say it all the time. I say we are earths on earth. This is about you taking the universe and bringing it down to your earth and applying this to your areas of life. That's all the houses are, and they coincide right along with the signs. The first house is Aries, the second house is Taurus, the third is Gemini, and it just goes right along. So the areas of life tend to also coincide with what Aries represents. So Aries is I am, it's how we show up. So therefore that first house is how we show up in our personal appearance. So let's run through the houses right quick so I don't run out of time on my IGTV. So if you have Saturn transiting your first house, this means you are a Capricorn rising. This means that you have a lot of planets running through your first house. So the one thing that you're probably going through is really how you are showing up, how you are presenting yourself to others. The image, a lot of times this is also your physical appearance. Capricorn, maybe if you're a Capricorn rising or a Capricorn in the first house, maybe you're trying to not show up so stuffy. Maybe you don't want to show up like the old man at the party anymore. Maybe you're sick of wearing suits and ties and that kind of thing if you're a Capricorn rising. And I honestly think this may be for Capricorn, Sun, and Moon as well. Any strong Capricorn placements, you are really changing your image and how you show up, and you really want to keep it real right now. At least that's the lesson that you should be implementing. So Saturn transiting your first house, you're really getting into your image, how you show up. Either you're sick of being stuffy or you want to get it together a little bit more. Maybe you've been a little bit frumpy. Maybe you haven't cared too much about how you look, and you're like, you know what, that is what I need to show up. More self-aware, more together with my appearance, and with this being your personality, maybe I need to get my personality in check a little bit as well, and not show up so over the top. If this is happening in your second house, then Saturn has you really reviewing your finances, your resources, the things that you have, the skills that you have, what is valuable to you, your possessions. And so that's really what you're re-examining. This is Taurus's house. If Saturn in this transit is happening in your third house, this is Gemini, this is I think, this is your mental activity, this is your learning, your perception, this is also your siblings, your neighborhood, the people that are familiar to you. Maybe you need to take the limits off of how you're thinking, take the limits off of how you're speaking, speak more freely, communicate more freely with your siblings, with your neighbors. Maybe there's too many boundaries there, and you need to grow up in that area and have more conversations with those people that are around you. This is also your daily task, your daily activities. Maybe you need to have more limits there, or you're too structured in your daily tasks and activities. If this is happening in your fourth house, this is Cancer's house, this is how you feel. Maybe you need to show more of how you feel. Show more of your emotions, or maybe you're needing to get your emotions more in check. Get your emotions more disciplined and more orderly. Y'all hear that train? The train would come. This is also about your roots if it's in your fourth house. Your emotional security, how you feel emotionally. Maybe you need to explore that area of your life more, and open up in that area. Open up to what's going on with your ancestors. Open up to what's going on at home in your roots. I also give the fourth house a energy to your body as Mother Earth and as a mother. So I think that this is really, how are you taking care of your body if Saturn is transiting your fourth house? If it's in your fifth house, this is Leo's house. This is I will. This is about you being more creative, or taking the boundaries off creatively, taking the boundaries off with how you express yourself in a creative way. Like, be more creative, have more fun, hang out with children more. This is all what the fifth house is. And if that's happening in your fifth house, you're really reviewing that right now. This is also a good time for romance and really anything fun. If this is happening in your sixth house, that's Virgo's house. This is about I analyze. This is also about I serve. The sixth house is a health and wellness house. This is about hygiene. This is about taking care of your body as well, because it's an earth sign. And this is also daily tasks, your daily travel across life. Maybe you're wanting to not have so many boundaries in those areas. Like, you're like, I need to loosen up. I'm working too much, and I need to, take care of my body a little bit more, offer service to others a little bit more. On the other hand, in one of Virgo's tendencies is Virgo will put people before themselves. And so maybe this is about you not giving yourself so much to others and not being so available to others, and instead pouring into your own hygiene and having more discipline with your own body in the way you take care of yourself. Also, service to others as well. If this is happening in your seventh house, this is Libra's house. So this is about balancing. This is about partnerships and contracts. This is about you giving more in your partnerships, opening up more in your partnerships. I would also review any contracts and any commitments that you have with somebody. This may be a really good time to make sure that these relationships are in line really with how you feel secure and how you feel balanced. Opening up in those relationships, I think, is really important. And checking out those contracts. If this is happening in your eighth house, this is Scorpio's house. This is about what you desire. This is also a house of transformation. So this is also a house of joint resources, insurance, debt, that kind of thing. I would check your credit. This is a time for you to be re-examining these resources that you are sharing with other people, and actually freeing yourself and actually making more money from the work that you're doing instead of relying on money with other people. However, I would still check on any insurance policies, pull your credit report, take a look at that. Any resources that you have, bank accounts that you have with somebody, I would examine those as well. If this is happening in your ninth house, that's Sagittarius' house, this is about what you see. This is about what you see with your first eye. I like to call it your first eye. This is philosophy, higher learning, religion, foreign lands. It's taking the limits off of the religions, taking the limits off of the philosophy, and really opening up to that and to receiving of God and of a higher power and of a higher calling. If this is happening in your 10th house, this is Capricorn's natural house. This is about what you use, the skills that you have. This is also about your public image and your reputation, your career status. This is about you loosening up with your public image, your career status, your reputation. This is more about you showing that more nurturing side of yourself, showing them that loving, family-oriented side of yourself and not being so hard. This is the time for you to re-examine that and rethink about those things and refocus on those things. Work is not the only thing there is. This is a good time for you to show love to people that love you. If this is happening in your 11th house, that's Aquarius's house. Aquarius is what they know. Aquarius is a very hopeful sign, and they hope the best for humanity, mankind, their friends, their networks, their social groups. So this is really about Aquarius opening up. I even think maybe about Aquarius having more discipline with their friends and their social groups and the amount of information that they're sharing with them. Either Aquarius is sharing too much or not sharing enough. I think that this is really more about Aquarius probably not sharing enough information with their friends, their social groups, their networks, and opening up in that area even more. If this is happening in your 12th house, that's Pisces natural house. This is about, the Pisces keyword is I believe. This is about your dreams. This is also a house of solitude, isolation. If this is happening in your 12th house, this is really a good time for you to get your own isolation, your own solitude. You need some time alone. You need some time to yourself. And in this time by yourself, you need to focus on your dreams. You need to focus on ways that you can stop self-sabotaging and hurting yourself. If this is happening in your 12th house, you really need to get into that higher, I believe, that higher intuition, spirituality, prayer, dreams. This is about spending time alone, but maybe not too much time alone. You need to really, that's what you need to focus on and think about. Are you spending too much time alone to where it's causing harm and sabotaging yourself, self-sabotage? Or are you not spending enough time by yourself? And that, on the other hand, is also self-sabotaging. So that's if you have this transit is happening in your 12th house. If you have Capricorn in the 12th house. Wherever Capricorn is in your chart. And of course, this also is going to matter. And this also is really about us reviewing things that happened in 2018. And it really kind of stems from there and us reviewing that. And this is also you also need to take into consideration any other planets that you had there at the time of your birth. So, if you're going through your Saturn return, or if you have Jupiter there, if you have the moon in any of these houses along with Saturn, or any of these other things that are happening. So there's so much more to it, and this is why I think everybody should, if you want to take the time to study your own birth chart, then that's awesome. It's going to take a while, but one part of understanding your birth chart even more is also having a professional astrologer take a look and give you a professional reading. And it just opens up so much self-awareness, so much enlightenment. I call it cosmic enlightenment. You get so much more. And you have even a better understanding when you talk to a professional about it. So I just ran through this very briefly. I did not talk about any aspects. I just talked simply about if this transit was happening in one house. I did not, go into any details. This is very generic and very quick. But I hope this is helpful. And if you have any questions, feel free to DM me. Go on my website, book a reading, any of that. So I hope this helped. I hope this helped you to open up to the area of your life. This is really about you opening up into the area of your life where you need to release and you need to refocus and rethink. I almost forgot to pull a card, probably because I'm going over the time. We'll see how this works out. This is really a time for release. Really a time for breaking the bonds of traditions. Stepping into newness. This is really new. Sun. Keep your face to the sun and you will never see the shadow. We need to keep our face to the light. And the shadow, that's another thing. Saturn is karma. Saturn is karma. With the South Node made its transits through there, the eclipse that we just had through Capricorn, this is about getting out of the shadows and into the light. I like that. The sun is currently in Cancer. Cancer is Capricorn's opposite. So this card is beautiful. It really is about us getting into the light, stepping out of the shadow and into the light. I love that. Thank you so much for your time. I hope to talk to you soon. If you have any questions, message me. Again, I strongly encourage a personal reading. At the very least, get on my newsletter and get this information in a newsletter before I release it to Instagram. Yeah. Thank you so much. Peace.